I need some aftershave. That's a joke. I do. I need something. And I ain't shaved yet, despite me not shaving, but I do use Nair. Right here and right here. Cause to be a masculine female, despite not being wanting to, I mean it's not like really a choice in that, but I do get hair like right here. Hairline. But the reason why I stated, okay, like FBI in fact have been known, as well as police, chief of police, all of them have been known. You can ask anybody that have worked with them, worked around them, pertaining to detailed matters such as that. Missing persons, the people that go missing and then are completely unfound, and yet their faces and all that still stay up on flyers, missing persons, right? They have been known to do those sort of things, despite even FBI police knowing that some of these children and missing adults are in fact dead, right? Yes, they leave all that up, flyers and all that up, because there still be certain people, because see, even if a person is dead, it's to stay, you still got to work on the case, and yet they're not going to really take the flyers and all that down. The missing persons, Amber Alert, once that buzzes off for children and all that, the missing persons flyers, because to have something still unsolved is to say it needs to be solved, and sometimes it does need fresh eyes and all that other stuff, right? But that has to stay up, because if you don't solve a case, what type of face are you going to put to it? See what I'm saying? If a case is completely unsolved, as in nobody solved it or took the time or is completely working on it over years, despite sometimes police, FBI knowing that individual is dead, many of them, thousands of them, they have to leave something there. They have to leave something. They can't just pull and say, okay, that missing person was found, because you can't really do that, because remains could be anywhere, and even that has to be traced back in the footing pertaining to what could have happened, as in who could have done what, right? That's almost a sales piece. If I know that somebody is dead and I leave, say, a sign, missing persons, it is almost a sales piece, because you can still have the public get involved, is what I'm trying to say, even in piecing something, despite them not knowing that the individual may or may not be dead. Some of these missing persons are in fact dead, and FBI know that they're dead, right? But you can still have public people, like, say, there's people that build blogs, there's people that talk on Twitter and Facebook with their own little blogs, despite it not being an official website, right? People in fact do build blogs and all type of things pertaining to that. Some people have newsletters, some people have podcasts, and yet sometimes these people are more forward thinking individuals, where they are able to see and put stuff together, where, say, police, FBI are not really, because they're so busy working so many cases. I said that a lot, right? And so they would in fact leave the missing persons flyer, sign, everything else, whether if it's in digital format, online, they will leave all that missing persons, because to not have whatever solved is to say it's unsolved, even if somebody is dead. But the reason why I had stated that Relisha Rudd could have possibly been killed, murdered by that Khalil Tatum, the reason why I stated that, when I said that video, that surveillance video, is in fact evidence, right? Because to see somebody walking into something, and the child was 8 years old when she supposedly went missing, right? But she had to be in his, I won't say custody, no. I won't say that. I won't use that term. That's for something else. But she was in his possession. Because see, to watch a 8-year-old on a surveillance tape walk into a hotel room and yet not walk out of a room, is to say there's in fact a problem. There's in fact a problem, a issue. There's a big issue. Because see, to go into something at 8 years old is to know you possibly might make your way back out of somewhere, right? And yet even when it points to missing persons, that detail has to be released. As in, police can't really, they can and they can't. They really can't hold on to a tape like that, because see, to even, once you involve the public into something and they're paying tax dollars, that's how police make their money. And everybody else in solving missing children's cases, there's money that go into that sort of thing. And even police know there's certain things you can hold on to and certain things you won't hold on to. right? And the only way I can see them holding on to something like that is if something is wrong with the case that involves murder. In which stands say the man that possibly did that, but even if he's dead and gone, I can still see them releasing that footage of that child walking out hand in hand, but not really holding his hand, leaving, because see, it's missing persons. And so public pay into that as well. I mean, yes, tax dollars do pay for a lot of things, let me tell you. And so what I'm trying to say is, even if that man was wanted and he killed himself, he killed his wife and possibly killed Relisha Rudd, despite many disagreeing with me, that's fine. But even if that man went and killed himself, that's turmoil in itself, and it was on his end to even take it that far to say blow himself away, right? If that sort of thing played out with him, that's questionable. But see, evidence stands completely in that tape, as in the resolving mystery. That holds volumes, as in that's a piece, that's a guiding piece, the mystery aspect. Because see, if that man went and killed himself, that tape still has to be released, because as I keep saying and I keep repeating this, the public is in fact involved in this. This is not the team of FBI, sheriff's office, police, whatever. This is not just their game alone. The public is people that's involved in helping to resolve a matter. That's why you put out missing persons in the first place, as in the flyer before the public's eyes on the news and all that. Yeah, because we as individuals have to get involved in that. So if you don't put out a video footage showing that the child left back out, what does that tell you? That's an issue. Because see, that more than likely points to no life being there. Because see, anytime you got millions of people and 7.8 billions of people here on earth, the child could have ended up in Mexico, Puerto Rico, anywhere, right? That surveillance tape is in fact a issue. And I can see that even broad daylight right here where I'm sitting at. That is in fact a issue. You don't issue a missing persons, right? You can, and yes, you do can. That serves a purpose, right? But then you don't go behind that and say not put a surveillance tape out there, because to have the public look for something, it's to know she could be there, right? But if the surveillance tape points elsewhere, then where can she be? Possibly in a garbage bag, maybe, with some ties to it. That's why I'm saying that there's a problem with the surveillance. I look at the surveillance tape. I look, yes, at that officer that she was above, possibly chief, right? I look at her, but I look more at that surveillance tape than anything. Because I said before, how many times missing children have been known to not really fully be missing. But for the public to put that sort of thing out to you is to portray to you that they could be missing, but more than likely they're dead, right? But to help even, well, for you to even help and get involved in cases to help solve that, what could have happened. Because even police, FBI sit back online and everywhere else and read comments and watch videos. Yes, they do. Yes, they trust and believe. Yes, they do. I actually, did I say that I have a older cousin that in fact worked? Yes, she did. In law enforcement, police. Over there were police officers and all of them served. Yes, she in fact did. You have all type of people that you come across. My mom, yes, she did have a friend that in fact worked the jails. And my mom does jail ministry right now, where she goes in and minister, right? But I've been surrounded by individuals that I myself I don't work in that sort of thing. But people have in fact surrounded even my family working in that sort of field. Family, friends, relatives, yes, around FBI and all that other stuff, right? And so I actually have an auntie that works for the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury Department. You'll be surprised at who knows who and who is doing what, right? But I don't work with FBI and I don't work with police and all that. But I do, in fact, know people that do work in fields pertaining to that. That is, in fact, a truth, a bold truth, let me tell you. Because some of the stuff that you hear is some of the stuff that you hear. I wish my mom was right here, because she would come out her mouth and say that as well. The stories. Yes, that videotape, see, that's a problem. The surveillance tape, that's my focus more than anything. More than Not saying more than a child going missing, because see, the surveillance tape in fact serves even her. That young girl, Relisha Rudd, that serves her more than anything. Because paw prints could even be on that as in a surveillance tape. Because see, once that gets to running and gunning, a hotel is not going to wipe that off of anything. Because first of all, many hotels, depending on even where my mom used to work, they used to run surveillance all throughout the building. And I even got a chance to go in the actual room. Yes, I did, where they used to keep tapes. Because it was like, I was going to say cassettes, but they were all VHS tapes, right? And it was a big room. Bigger than the actual bedroom. It had to be the size of like 2 or 3 bedrooms put together. Or nothing but tapes of them recording. Because the field in which my mom worked, FBI served in that as well. See, I don't really like that when I talk, like when people be like, well, you talk a lot, right? Yes, I do, right? Certain things slip out my mouth when I'm telling certain things, which irritates people. But I don't really like when it's friends and family that's working and stuff like that. I really don't like to tell too much of their end, because that can piss them off. Yes, it can. Why would you get on video and say that, right? People have been known to hound my mom for a job. My mom is now retired, right? But they've been known to hound my mom in the past for jobs. But my mom, the type of job that she worked for, and it in fact involved private investigators. I think one day I'm going private investigators, FBI. Let me tell you. I think one day when my mom comes here, I'm in fact going to have her talk about that on video. As in, let her speak pertaining to private investigators and FBI, and when they used to do their conference calls and all that back and forth. See, the state in which she worked, they used to do these conference calls and the meetings and all that other stuff, and FBI and all them would in fact be on the TV screen. That was in fact way before YouTube, because where my mom in fact worked, she had worked there 30 years. So that was like since what? The 70s, the late 70s going into the 80s. No, hold on. The late 70s, the 80s. But my mom, the job where she worked, in fact, involved FBI and private investigators. Let me tell you. And when we used to have take your daughter to work day, I used to get certificates and all that for going, right? It's a bit extreme, the job that she used to do, let me tell you. And I'm not going to even go into descriptive matter with that. But it's deep. That's all I can say about that. Even when FBI do their game of what they do. That's deep. I should have went, because I had considered that going into law enforcement myself. Did I tell that when my mom, when she ended up enrolling in college, but she didn't graduate because she wanted to be everywhere else, doing everything else, because the woman talks a lot, which is her thing, and not really studying all day, right? She studied criminal justice. That's what my mom went to school for. So her job, some of the stuff that involved her job, in fact, pinpoint with that, with law enforcement, FBI and private investigators and all that, right? So she didn't graduate, but to have on-the-job experience, or even so many of them that worked back then included that sort of thing, which is why I'm able to actually speak on stuff and elaborate on things in which I do. That is not all. I mean, it is fully me, but not completely. Because see, for your mother to work in certain aspects of detail, how where people get in trouble with the law and all that other stuff and don't know what's coming and all that, right? It's to say you pay attention to that even at a young age. My mom used to have FBI and private investigators working, yes, in the office of where my mom used to be at, them coming in and out and all this other stuff, right? And them, yes, watching people committing crimes. They used to record all types of stuff, right? For my mom to say have worked in that sort of thing, is for her to even tell me years before what was coming pertaining to technology. Because see, to work too close with them type of individuals that work in law enforcement is for them to even know what comes next years before pertaining to technology. My mom then was doing conference calls back in the 90s, way before when internet was first getting popping, and yet everybody didn't have all that. Their system, their portal system with all that, yes, surveillance and all that other stuff was more state of the art I think back then than it was today. That is very forward thinking, whoever designed that. But yeah, I try not to, because see, my mom back in the day, people used to try to get jobs and all that other stuff. They wanted to work in different things. And so she used to get mad, and she used to tell me and my brother not to be telling all this or that, what she did. So I just kept that to myself, but I would rather let her speak out on that and not me, because she can elaborate even more. But surveillance tapes, they point to a lot of things. Because how many times did I repeat that? If that man was dead and he was wanted, the man is still dead. But remember, to put something out is to say a missing child could possibly be there or maybe not, right? Say the police putting out the missing child and leaving it there, right? But even if that man killed himself, I can still see the FBI, police, everybody still releasing that footage of that child leaving out that room. Because see, that even points and speak the evidence that is possibly that man could have given her away, as giving her off to somebody or something. See, I looked into the story, but I didn't look completely into the story because I was too focused on the mother and the grandmother and them being full-blown crack addicts and me getting completely angry and disgusted. I couldn't focus anywhere else. To be honest with you, I could not focus anywhere else, because it was grieving on my end for the simple fact that, why did you have a child in the first place? Because it makes me question even the mother. Could she have been on crack before she decided to have children, or was she on crack afterwards? Because see, look, I'm able to tie stuff and string stuff together by just sitting here looking without even taking notes, as in looking in the dead air before me. There's a possibility that the grandmother, Relisha's grandmother, was on crack, and more than likely the daughter followed in the footsteps of even that, as in the usage. I just tie stuff together as I'm sitting here because that's all I can see and that's all I can focus on outside of everything else. To be a pothead sometimes growing up is to in fact lead to other drugs, which could have possibly happened to that grandmother. Relisha's mother supposedly still smoked weed, which is why I spoke about that, but the habit began somewhere before then. As an investigation in that, was the grandmother smoking crack or something long term? Because even that plays out in the mouth, as in there being signs and everything else. Because to have teeth or something missing, some missing objects was in fact there and gone, pertaining to a missing thing. Yes, with the grandmother's mouth. Let me tell you, something in fact was gone. See, my teeth, I in fact had a slight gap, which almost looked like it's film or plaque or something sitting there, and yet it's not. It's a small, slight gap, how you crack your teeth over the years, right? But that completely doesn't align with the grandmother's mouth at all, pertaining to the drug usage and the signs. Sometimes you can look at an individual's mouth and completely know what type of drug they're using. Because see, a drug user and abuser, there's all type of signs that play into that. And no, not wearing shades. I could easily take these off, but I keep my shades on because I even wear them in the shower. Dear love. No, let me not stop. But yeah, I wear my shades in the shower. But I'm saying with the mouthpiece, that sort of thing points to a specific type of drug. Crackheads have been known to have all their teeth just randomly fall out. And a lot of times years before they're supposed to, as in intended. We all have when it's times for our teeth to fall out. You can either eat too much sugar or eat too much of something that eats away at the enamel of your teeth, or you can use a substance that in fact does the same thing, such as a hard, I want to say living substance, crack, possibly heroin or a meth head. Yes, a meth addict, because they're known to, but in the mother's face, usually with a meth addict, you can see more of the face somewhat sinking in slightly, as well as the eyes and everything. You can tell when a meth addict is just that. I believe Chris Brown, yes, the famous singer Chris Brown, at times in fact serve on the board and panel an issue of being a meth addict at times. Sorry, Chris Brown. I listen to Chris Brown like every other day. And yet with that, there's in fact signs with that. I like Chris Brown because whatever drug that he used gives him some up on the upright, as in hyper. So when you hear his music and the boom, 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 I just like his silky vocals. Not everybody like Chris Brown singing, and yet I do. I love his singing. I don't really care for his erratic behavior, which that tells so much. It speaks so loud, right? I wish my braids, I gotta rebraid my hair. I'm trying to wait. I might rebraid it on Tuesday. Because this right here keeps coming up, right? But yeah, Chris Brown with that. His face from time to time will appear more sunken in. Everything will look more slender. And I'm not going to say white people, but I don't know what it is with other races of people that find that sort of thing attractive. And in a face being sunken in, who would want to date something like that, sunken in, knowing that drug usage could in fact play a part in that? Chris Brown, he's handsome, but I've heard other races outside of black people say, well, such and such, look at, oh, she has Botox, and not only that, her face is, I'm like, there's two things going with that. There is, in fact, not with Chris Brown, but some of these female celebrities where you can tell even they might have meth addiction or something. I'm not saying Courtney Love, I ain't say her, but some of these other ones where it's two things going in motion at once, such as Botox as well as meth. They done use meth to help sink their face in, as well as use some Botox or something to suck some whatever. That is too much extreme. But you can see in even that. The grandmother, her face is more fuller. So I don't know if she would in fact be a meth addict. But the signs is completely there on the crackhead field. The playing field of that. As well as the mother. Because facial expressions tell everything. Yes, they do. Which could be why sometimes, if you notice how much spunk and attitude I possess, which could be why I possibly wear my sunglasses too much, because I've been known and prone to roll my eyes when my sunglasses, as in when I'm looking at something that don't seem right and I'm rolling my eyes back and forth. And when I don't have my shades on, people take notice to that because I roll my eyes in people's faces. Yes, I do. I've been known to do that. But yeah, I wear sunglasses because they're cool. And not only that, I just like them. But the mother, facial expressions tell all. I can see the mother, let me see. The mother, seeming crackheads are known to, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry because I ain't writing nothing down, so I'm just going everywhere. As I should, these cases are everywhere. So I'm just following right along, and something being everywhere, I just go right behind it everywhere. You can't really string a story, but maybe you can. But the mother, to be a full-blown crackhead is to know you give anything away. And even, yes, sell your child off pertaining to that. But I can see a mother being desperate for her fix and say a guy. See, I was thinking to myself, more than likely for this girl to be in this possession of this man as much as she was, more than likely that man was paying that mother something. Because see, that man, supposedly the chief FBI, police, whatever, all of them, they come out and they say, well, the man didn't have a history of, say, child pornography pertaining to computers because they're able to confiscate, right? But with that little girl, he might have been full blast molesting her, right? And anytime a woman wants a fix, I could see even both the mother and the grandmother being on that sort of thing, as in being involved on that, as in them being hungry for their fix and shaking, and the man preying in on the weakness of that, say giving them money just to be able to take the little girl, and him and the little girl going out to buy gifts and all that other stuff. You don't know what was involved sexually between him and that child, because see, when I look back at the fact that the little girl was in and out of homeless shelters and stay in various places before all that took place, and how the little girl had fear pertaining to that, is to say possibly something could have went wrong with even that, as in molestation or being touched and fondled or something, wherever the environment was where her mother was allowing her to stay and be kept, that didn't involve that man, but it happened, say, somewhat years before or something. I seen that in the video. The little girl, wherever they stayed, at one point, she didn't like that. She had a fear or something pertaining to that. Which means a possible grown man or something could have tried to come on to her. I can't see nothing else taking place. Somebody had to walk up to that little, because even if a woman came up to her and was loose, unscrewed and unbolted on crack or heroin, came up to the little girl, if something like that would have happened where the child and say the mother were staying in homeless shelters, I don't think the little girl will be so much bothered by that, because to be in that environment is to get used to that sort of thing. Even if you are around drug addicts that are women, a little child that might creep her out, like, get away from me, right? Because she know that the woman, she don't know what the woman is about, so get away. You don't touch me, right? Because people do all type of things, even women, and molesting children, right? But I don't think that will be enough to scare her off, because see, the woman will be more likely the same sex as that little Relisha. A man more than likely would have feared, because see, there's even bass in the voice with that, as in a grown man snooping around somewhere, even at a homeless shelter, coming up on a child and say, hey, come here, or something. Little young girls don't like that sort of thing. No, they die. Not even in a homeless shelter, because she don't know where he's coming from to begin with. She don't know him. To be living in a homeless shelter and be living in many is to know you're going to come across many, but usually men, I can't, depending on what state, because see, state to state is different. Most homeless shelters allow women to be at a homeless shelter and not men sharing a space, right? But state to state is different, depending on the confines as well as the law and the abstraction of that, as in how the building was set up. You got some buildings where, depending on, because you got even churches that set up supposed homeless shelters where, say, they make men either sleep upstairs and the women sleep downstairs. It depends on the building. But even coming out of the building is to say, even somebody, a manly figure, could walk up on a child. As say the mother hanging around outside the shelter. Some shelters don't even let you do that. Once you're out the door, you got to get off the grounds, because people get killed in that. And that's a liability issue pertaining to even the homeless shelter. They don't want that sort of thing on their hands, which is why when they kick you to the curb, when it's time to leave out, at the time to leave, yes, they will put you out, right? So that they can clean up and wash dishes and all that. They'll kick you out. But a lot of times they make you, in fact, get off the homeless shelter premises, because homeless people have been known to kill one another. And no business or society or nothing needs that on their premises, as in a lawsuit or something, right? Which is why they, in fact, kick you to the curb once they make you get out the door. Even with, there's curfews and all that that follow into that. People don't know why. Well, why would a homeless shelter just put you out at a certain designated time and then just leave you out there hanging? Because they have to set times. There's cleaning processes and all that. They just can't have people, because people just get carried away. Sometimes homeless people, and I've known a few, and I've known people that have stayed in sometimes they can't be told what to do. So to treat them almost like they're jail individuals is to, in fact, put them out at a designated time and not allow them to get carried away, as in running your show as you're trying to run a business, because a homeless shelter is, in fact, just that, a business. It has to be ran and operated like one. You can't just be letting homeless people come in and out at any time, because see, even they have to, the homeless shelter, in fact, has to have health department and all that. They need to come in and out and scope to make sure even that is being maintained, because that's a health issue as well. Which is why they will make people get out at times and be left on the curb until it's time to come back in. You can't have, I won't say filthy individuals, no, but you can't have filth laid upon filth and then knowing the health department is going to come in and check and scope that out. All businesses have to be up to state code, as in managed even in that, despite you having homeless people, because many homeless people, they don't have the means to take care of themselves. But see, health and regulation and all that, they just look at the filth aspect. Well, how is the refrigerator being kept? Well, how is that room over there being kept? Well, is the linen being washed? They want to know all that. An inspection is what I'm trying to say. I could see buildings like that being more inspected than, say, apartments and other businesses, because you got too many type of individuals coming in and out. And some of them, depending on the state and depending on the law, if you've been convicted, some of these homeless shelters will in fact allow some people to stay that been convicted, as in went to jail and served time in jail. Some of them will allow you to stay, and yet some other homeless shelters will not, because they know that children are in fact living there with their mothers, and some of these people have been convicted of murder and served time and that and all that. So yeah, there's regulation behind that, and it should be. Because see, some of them, why they put them out too, some of them businesses that run homeless shelters, they are in fact businesses, as I stated, they don't always know what they're working with, and them allowing people to stay. Because if you got somebody that's been convicted of something and they said served 10 years and now they're out back on the street, but they're homeless and they're coming to stay in your shelter, you got to put them out at some time of the day. And that's not to look down on people, because I know people that have served time as well as died in jail, right? Yes, I have. I know. You come across all type of people in life. But I'm just saying, you wouldn't want that sort of individual around you all day as you're working, because they are in fact known to rob you. Yes, businesses have been known to be robbed by even convicts in the daytime. So you would in fact want to put them out on the street as a designated time, and then let them come back, and they got to be in by the curfew time. That's how you handle a business such as a homeless shelter. Because see, at any time one of them homeless people could creep behind an office door or somewhere and try to rob one of them secretaries or something crazy, because even secretaries serve in that. You don't want to deal with that. You got to actually put them out so that you can get some business done, lock the door, and let that be that, and then let them in later. There's a breakdown to even that as well, the reason why businesses do things. So that mother and that grandmother, signs of drug usage. That man could have more than likely, because he was buying the child gifts. And I even saw a video where supposedly the mother had a dress that the man supposedly bought little Relisha, Khalil, the guy that killed himself. He bought little Relisha a dress, right? And that's what the mother was saying in the video, right? She was saying this. But who's to say that's completely truth? Because see, all this points back to the mother anyway, pertaining to what she could possibly be covering. Because in the beginning, the woman didn't have photos of her children on her Facebook, and I'm still in question of that. How could a woman lay and have babies and yet not offer a feature pertaining to a Facebook and putting the child's pictures on there? But you brag about how much you're getting high and smoking weed. I don't understand that. That's trace evidence as well. More than likely, the police treat her the way that they treat her. And the mother is mad about that. Yes, she deserves to be treated like that. Even coming from a mouthpiece as mine and everybody else, that mother, in fact, deserves to be treated that way, because she handled her children carelessly, all of them. If she had 3 boys taken away and then she had a little girl which could possibly be dead or maybe alive, who knows? It's to say she treated her children carelessly, which is why the public in fact aimed for her in public scrutiny, and they should. They need to tear the mother down in the best way as possible, because even that will click in senses. In senses. People, see, I don't get into public, when people say politically correct, don't say this, don't hurt her feelings. Well, I don't give a fuck about that. And the mother and her feelings getting hurt, because see, sometimes you need to be knocked up in the head by even public scrutiny itself, or the public talking about you in the worst way, because possibly even that will help you get off of drugs or something. Something has to come to a closure in even that, as in a drug usage and the possible drug supply by even that man that was buying gifts or purchases for little Relisha, right? That somebody needs to in fact knock you over the head, dear mother, Relisha's mother and grandmother, with even that, as in them talking about you. Because that in fact may want you to, that might in fact may want to lead you to get off of drugs. Or it could help you use more, depending on how strong or weak you are. But that mother over there play like she's strong, this and this and that. So if you're really strong, then get off of drugs. I said that how many times? It has to be pointed out. It has to be pointed out because, see, these children are in fact members of society, and they're not animals, and yet animals are members of society as well. But children are in fact a bit more valuable, despite some not agreeing with me on that. The drug usage is in fact a problem because, see, if the mother is full blown on, you mean tell me, see, that's a respect issue in itself. You mean to tell me the mother was in fact on drugs as well as the grandmother, to the point they get in an interview, in many interviews, and supply an interview with interviewers high on the crack? That shows lack of respect for self, lack of respect for the interview, but more than anything, lack of respect for your own child. That's what that shows, which is why none of them need that child. You don't respect even her and her well-being, to get in the interview and be full-blown gone on some drugs, knowing people can see right through that as even the lies. I said, okay, is the dress, supposedly the man Khalil bought the little girl a Easter dress? Yes, an Easter dress. And they're over there showing it off. And I'm like, okay, did he really buy that, or did the mother buy that to cover herself? As in an ID band. I'm just in question of that. That doesn't make sense. That in itself does not make sense because, see, you can even wrap your head and possibly wrap it around that mother, even in questioning her. Why would she take the time to go on Stephen Wilkos? What's his name? Steve Wilkos, because even he served with FBI and all that as well. There's many people that in fact have worked and served for FBI but will never tell you that. There's reason why they do that sort of thing, where they're able to scope as well, right? But Steve Wilkos came out. He used to be with Jerry Springer, I think. I think he did. I haven't really watched too much of him. But he came out and spoke where he served with police and FBI and all that, right? Where he was able to see through her as well, right? And it's almost as if, see, sometimes when people come out here, you got two different angles on that. A mother can come out here trying to find a child, right? Or she can come out here trying to put the attention all on herself. As in, you're being able to read into that sort of thing. And to have worked in advertising myself, is to say and see where somebody have did too much, or trying to portray too much of even themselves, of them trying to cover. Because, see, let me tell you, the mother, when she stood there on the Steve Wilkos show, it's as if almost the performance, as in the dramatization of even that mother, notice and realize how it almost seems as if the attention is more on herself than the focus being on her child or something. It's like, you got to understand attention diversion. You have to understand, that's a science all its own. How you try to, in fact, turn the attention away off of something, but at the same time, point it directly on yourself. It's almost as if the mother went on a Steve Wilkos show to drive the attention off of her, just like how I stated Asia degree parents possibly did. Drive the attention off of her, as in move it away from her, but still drive it back on her, as in she wanting all the attention. In a sense, that mother, Relisha Rudd's mother, it's something, I don't know. It's something sketchy about even that, where even the mother, Relisha's mother, seems to want all the attention on herself. All the attention on herself, and yet it's something about that. I don't know. It's something, it's like almost as if the mother is something about fame or something, like famous aspect. You know how something happened, and say many people, and sometimes more so black people, ain't used to being in the limelight about something pertaining to a story, right? And so they kind of, what's the word for it? I can't even, I'm there, halfway there, but I'm getting to it. It's almost as if the mother is trying to build a name for herself or something. Even off that child being missing or something. Something is not right with even that. That's telling too. Relisha Rudd's mother. Because you mean it just something is not right. So I be seeing stuff where stuff don't add up. Like, you mean tell me you had a Facebook and you showed off that you were smoking a lot and smoking weed a lot, as well as having all this money, as in showing off this expensive stuff, but you're living out of a homeless shelter? What kind of sense does that make? And not only that, there was no children as she was doing that on Facebook. You see what I'm saying? There's in fact people that try to, once something like a situation like this has occurred, they in fact try to build a name for themselves, as in become famous off of that sort of thing. Parents in fact do that sort of thing. And that is in fact a disgrace in itself. To be a parent and know that your child has gone missing, and yet you want to sit and argue and pick fights with even that, going on a TV show or something, right? And not even taking a lie detector test. Because I'm thinking, if you want to be strong and bold and famous, and even that, dear Relisha Rudd's mother, you would in fact take a lie detector test just to show how strong and bold you really are. But more than likely a fall. I keep looking out the window. Somebody's supposed to be showing up. I keep looking out the window, yes, but I keep even questioning that. What is with that? You don't want to take a lie detector test. Everybody else, parents. See, the police, law enforcement should in fact force that mother. There's laws that in fact protect parents and all that other stuff, just like they protect everybody else, what you can and can't do, where you can go in and where you can't go in by standard state law. There's, yes, and all that, right? But there should be some type of way where even police, they know what they're doing. They know how to even go behind that. As in a mother. They need to, she's number one that needs to be interrogated. Yes, she does. Relisha's mother, in fact, as well as a grandmother, because to have two crackheads in on one, as in both individuals in on the case, it's a no guilt stands there, but possibly no remorse, because to cover up real life with drugs is to say you're not gonna feel anything. She might see. I said people have been known to pass lie detector tests when they use drugs. Because to not feel is to know you're not going to have any awareness even taking a test. But more than likely, whoever is devising that lie detector test, as it's going, as in the moment, the motion, the figure standing there, that individual might more than likely stop that test. Because see, you can't see, there's individuals that have been known to take lie detector tests, and yet they were high as they were doing it, but not too high that even somebody that is giving the test will be able to see. Even that, right? But more so when you're high, as in you're blown, and say the individual figure that's giving you the test, they can in fact read into that they have to stop the test. The test can't be done. It has to be given to you on a whole completely day when you're off drugs, as in sobered up. That mother more than likely don't want to come too close to any FBI, sheriff, or any of that. Because see, to be a drug user and abuser, she don't want to taint her hands even in a test. With that, as in, yes, a lie detector test. She don't want to, because she know that she's guilty, but she don't show no type of remorse. But not only that, that goes back into record keeping as well, as an FBI police. Which is why she more likely don't want her hands on that sort of thing. Whether she could have had it, because she has a part of this anyway. But say she didn't sell her daughter off. An individual that use heavy drug usage like that, or use drugs such as crack, they don't want their hands on anything that can be in record keeping. Because see, that sort of thing can be used against her later on. Yes, in law. And that mother knows that, because see, to be too far blown in the head on crack and even go on the Steve Wilkos show, it's to know she could be fully high on that, as in not sobered up enough to even go on the show, because crackheads are known, as well as some weed heads are known, to have paranoia, and even that. Which is why could be one reason outside of the mother being guilty, could be another reason why that mother may or may not wanted to take a lie detector test, as many people call it. There's various names to even that test, right? Because paranoia stands in that. And no mother of a missing child or possibly dead child wants to be standing nowhere around walking the streets at night or even in the daytime looking for the next fix. Knowing and understand that paranoia stands in the back of her mind because she is a crackhead, right? Paranoia is deep in that. Knowing that days before she was on the Steve Wilkos show and she took a lie detector test. That's enough to drive anybody crazy enough for even them to go kill themselves. The mother, I'm saying. You don't know how that would have turned out in the end because, see, paranoia is in fact deep in that. That, how I'm looking all around the corner, that would in fact have that mother doing that sort of thing even after the Steve Wilkos show is over with. I'm thinking something like that would have possibly driven Relisha's mother crazy, and possibly the grandmother. But didn't the grandmother pass the test? I think she did pass the test. But that mother, she don't want to be paranoid because you never know what she's seen as she's on drugs. You see what I'm saying? People be completely, where I come from, the hoods of hoods, where you see crackheads just walking out and you're like, wait a minute, what was that? Was that a 56-inch TV being carried by a crackhead down the block? I think it was. Because the more you're on drugs, the more stronger you become physically. Some of them, depending on the drug, right? So they do all type of crazy things. And not only that, they see all type of crazy things. They see all type of things. I'm saying. They see all, and they tell you. Let me tell you. I have not once ever used crack. And not ever would I hold the interest of using crack based upon how I see crackheads in fact carry themselves. Not all of them, but just the ones that you see, which is why many people fear them. Because you don't know. Most people run away when they see a crackhead. Did I say that before? Because they don't know what this crackhead is going to do, as in possibly kill even them for some money. Or possibly even kill you for some money. I don't know what, because see, my neighbor lady, we was all friendly with her. Her and her husband loved my dog. But come to find out, we wake up one day and the police and all them is at her house because the crackhead somewhere in the neighborhood done killed her in the door and beat her husband half to death. Yes, and the woman that got killed and the man that got beat in his house, as soon as the woman opened the door to see what he wanted, he was a full-blown crackhead, killed her in her door. And the woman and her husband's son, in fact, worked for police. Sad and as sick as it sounds. That sort of thing happens, which is why many fear the crackhead. As they see him or her coming, you just go the other way. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And if I got on a suit and a tie, which I'm known to wear outside of this stuff, I run the other way as well. Because that in itself is a luring tactic on my end, that if I got on a suit and a tie and I see one coming, even that suit and tie on my end with the top hat would be luring as an attractive enough for them to want to come possibly rob me. I move away. As in get away. And that's not looking down on them. But the things that they see, some of these crackheads, if you ever been at a distance with them, as in across the street and them talking to you or whatever, them shouting. I've seen a man even on crack, yes, punching like this at the wind, outside at the wind. The man lived across the street from me. And we used to come outside and be like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? He would be shouting in the air and punching at the wind. I made it a point to never be outside at night when he was outside. For that simple reason, they kill you on the spot for a drug, right? So I'm saying even him he will be saying the stuff that he was like seeing as he was punching stuff. When I said about them seeing stuff, that don't make sense. Like, that's where that paranoia, because you can even walk up on one and not be really close to them, right? But it's like as if they can almost feel you, although say they're halfway down the block, right? And you're walking up on the sidewalk, they turn all the way around quickly. Because I guess they can hear your feet or something. I don't know. Or feel you or something. They say we're spiritual beings. They can feel you or something, right? They get paranoid in even that, which is why I can see why say that mother would not want to take a lie detector test. You don't know how that would have messed her up in the mind, even in that. Knowing that she is on record with the FBI, police, whoever, she would more than likely be paranoid, I'm thinking. Deeply paranoid. That grandmother, she was bold enough on crack to take it, which is like she possibly like, aha, I don't care about anything. That's probably what that grandmother thinking with that over there about her past, and she ain't even scared because see, to use crack for even that long, that grandmother, is to say she's got used to the high of that. Controlling her high, being on controlled substances. But the mother, her being much more younger, is to say, who's to say whether she can control her high and when? And how even that will possibly make her flip out after she done went and stood and took a lie detector test. You never know. Shoot, you don't never know what could happen. That woman could possibly have taken that lie detector test, got all paranoid, and then kill her mother or something crazy like that, the grandmother of Relisha, all because it almost, if she didn't pass it, it would almost make it look like she had something to do with the little girl's disappearance, which is why she would possibly kill the child's grandmother or something, to make it look like maybe other people are killing or something. To take the focus up. People do all type of stuff. I'm thinking that mother would have possibly taken that lie detector test, possibly failed that test, and maybe afterwards been paranoid on some crack, went and possibly killed her own mother, such as the child's Relisha's grandmother, and then tied that in or something crazy and made it look like somebody killed the grandmother as well as killed that man Khalil. Crackheads think all, let me tell you, they think all type of ways, and even that. Ask FBI, ask police, ask anybody that have worked cases that involved even those sort of people. Because as I'm thinking here, a logically individual, I'm thinking, would that mother have did something like that if she took the lie detector test and possibly failed? I'm thinking because she tried to pin it on her mother in the first place, as in Relisha's grandmother. She tried to pin some of it. They were pinning it on each other. You see what I'm saying? Which goes back to logic and reasoning in the aspect of, say, if that mother would have failed that lie detector test, more than likely it's a possibility if she would have taken it, and say she would have been found guilty, she possibly would have killed her own mother or something. And then try to say that whoever killed her mother possibly was the individual that killed that man Khalil, who her child was hanging around. People do all type of sort of things. So then people would have been in question of, I could just see it going in that direction. I don't know why it is. People would in fact have been in question, well, how is the grandmother now dead, as well as Khalil now dead? Okay, so now instead of us looking at the mother, maybe the mother or Khalil, see, that would have thrown everything in every which, yes, it would thrown everything in every direction. As even that, however she would have done it, because I can see sometimes as a presume, as in sometimes how people would have did stuff, right? Just to even take the eyes off themselves, if that mother would have, say, possibly killed her own mother after she was found guilty, despite it didn't happen, to make it seem like somebody else was in and could have possibly taken her daughter, something like that. And the mother, let me see, the mother would have possibly killed Relisha's grandmother to somewhat take herself out of the situation, to look like some drug man or something was involved, but that would in fact put herself back in the situation. But not completely. If two murders are tied together, say if the grandmother would have gotten killed and say she did it, and say Khalil got killed, Some people wouldn't even be able to look into that completely, but they will be wondering, well, what is going on over there? Where is the child? But more likely, what is going on over there? Because too many people are now getting killed. And then I'm thinking they will start to really believe and analyze, well, maybe the child was sold into sex slavery. And maybe the mother didn't completely have anything to do with it. Maybe it was a drug man on top supplying her with something, and maybe she failed to pay the drug man or something. You gotta look into it real logically and deep like I do. How some of this stuff can go every which way. But yeah, I was looking at that mother on the show like, what is wrong with this mother? What is wrong with many of them? Just, it's too much. That is in fact what it is. I just can't really see. I could be wrong, but I just can't really see the police, FBI, whoever else knowing that, say possibly the young Relisha can be alive and then them not issuing that surveillance video out. Because as I stated before, when somebody is missing, supposedly missing, as in you're wanting the public to find them, then how is the public supposed to find anything if they don't know? Because see, look, when you put out a surveillance video of somebody coming back out of the room, as in a child and a grown man after they walked into the room, that helps point the position of even the public's eyes of where to look. Because see, the man could have given the child off to somebody in a vehicle or something down the block or around the corner on a roadway or something like that, just like how I said Asia Degree. But even that video has to point to something. The surveillance of, say, a child walking out of the room, because to say a child has been sold into sex trafficking is to say, well, on the video surveillance, now we see that she walked out of the room, but she could still be in that environment and not out of state. Even that little girl, Relisha, could be even. The man would have to have on the surveillance as he was being, say, possibly being seen, though they weren't, him and the little girl leaving out the hotel. That would in fact have to force police to show that. If she was alive, I'm saying. That would have to have forced them to show that to the public to say, okay, that is in fact a missing link, as in the girl could have left out the hotel and being seen or not seen getting into a vehicle that say that man Khalil that killed himself handed the child off to somebody that is in fact in sex trafficking themselves, which could be another man or woman. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? But to not force a video to be placed out by FBI or police or whoever is to say the child could more than likely be dead, which is why I say that. Because at any time of the day, if you have a surveillance tape and say it has a child coming out of the room, as well as a man, is to say they could in fact make their way down a elevator or a flight of stairs, be seen coming out by staff, even on video, somewhere else on video, because video is all over hotels. They're even on the outside, as in a sitting waiting car of somebody. And if they have a parking garage, many surveillance tapes are in fact even out there as well, depending on the hotel, right? Remember, that was 2014 and not way back in the 90s or anything. Many of these hotels have surveillance everywhere, right? And so that sort of thing would have been seen by staff or somebody of her coming out of somewhere is what I'm trying to say. But to not have anything of an individual child coming out anywhere on no surveillance of anywhere pertaining to that hotel is to say, what do you have? Because many hotels in fact have surveillance by the front door. They have to have, because see, there have been known people to come into a hotel and rob even the staff working the front desk. Location even in that. That if, okay, the child wasn't particularly, because they keep all their videos, that's the point. They have to keep that for crime purposes if there is a robbery, a fire or anything for police matters, right? And for their own. Because anything can happen. Somebody can slip on the floor and try to sue the hotel, right? So all that surveillance has to be kept. But if there's no surveillance showing that the child was even nearby the front desk leaving out, remember, to leave out of a hotel is to not leave out of a back door. You in fact leave out of a front door, which is where everybody come in to meet the staff at the front desk. If there's not even surveillance of that, what does that tell you and show you? There was in fact more footage is what I'm trying to say. And yet even that wasn't released. They got to the specific area of showing her actually in the hotel room, because even that points to molestation or not. As in a guilty party or not, such as that Khalil guy. But I think that's all to be said for right now, because my phone is ringing. I'm supposed to be going to the grocery store. My phone is ringing, but I want you to think about even that. Because if a man such as him was going to give that child off, a surveillance camera might be able to point even that direction of, say, the child leaving out, right towards the front door leaving out. Because some of these hotels have doors that actually spin around, like they have at offices. Spin around, or just doors that you push them open, right? Or even remote doors where you push something so that people can come in with a cart, or come in, get a cart, put their luggage on the cart, and then roll back in. All that has to be recorded on footage and analyzed for police purposes. If something was to happen in a, say, hotel such as a rape or something like that with a grown individual and not just a child or something, right? And so, once again, if a grown man was to make his way from that hotel room down to where the staff work in that area, and say he didn't meet and greet them, and yet he passed by them going out the front door of the hotel, it's to say footage in fact has to be there, whether a child was with him or not. And if a child wasn't with him, that could be why the video footage is not released. Even in that, they record everything. Hotels record everything. You don't think they do, and they in fact do. And that front door is one of the missing pieces and clues as in that. FBI, dear FBI, was Relisha on video footage pertaining to a hotel door being open and closed in the main intersection of, say, where sometimes the staff sit either on one side, some staff sit on both sides of hotels, depending on the hotel, how luxurious it is. I couldn't even get that word out. That's in fact footage as well. Because to get to a hotel room is to know you got there some type of way, as in checking in somewhere. And leaving in and out possibly multiple times, and that's footage as well. Even if it's a young child there or not. People leave in and out of hotels or where they're staying sometimes numerous times, and the tape has to pick up all that as they're going out of the front door and not the back door. There's no way to leave a hotel in a back door. No, there's not. Even not on the balcony. Wait a minute. Some hotels in fact do have back doors. Let me not get this wrong. Some hotels do have back doors, right? And footage still is picked up in that. But the majority of people that leave in and out of hotels, there's in fact side doors as well, but that still is picked up. Because I have long hallways and all that, is to know you got to be able to trace that, even hotel staff, if somebody wants to sue you or commit a crime. Because even celebrity concert goers and all that stay in those sort of places and impose damage themselves, as in pushing and breaking holes in the walls. And somebody has to foot the bill even in that, despite them not being able to see into the hotel room, but they're still able to see on the other side of the door, as in who was making their way into that room where, say, a big old hole is in the wall and nobody wants to pay for that, right? So yeah, consider that the surveillance. I still stay stuck on that, but I'll be back on another day. I might make more videos pertaining to that, deciphering that mother and possibly that man. Why is he staying in hotel rooms? That's suspicious in itself. That mother, she just looked guilty, and as well as the grandmother. I'll be back.